Fine, I'll handle it. The words echoed through the Galactic Council chamber like a shockwave. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy sat in stunned silence, some of their many eyes blinking in sync, others twitching their mandibles in shock. The council had gathered to discuss the human problem, an enigma that had puzzled, and, to be blunt, terrified the galaxy for years. Humans were odd. They didn't possess the brute strength of the Truic, nor the advanced weaponry of the Zarthans. Their ships were decent, but by no means cutting edge. And yet, somehow, these strange beings from a little blue planet continued to survive, even thrive, in situations that no other species could. The Council had decided to address the escalation on the human frontier, a series of raids and skirmishes that had gone unresolved for the past few months. The combined forces of the Drax, Zarthans, and Truic empires had been poking, testing, and probing at human outposts, expecting an eventual retreat, some surrender, or at the very least, a negotiation. But humans had never surrendered. A tall, thin alien with a gelatinous head, who called himself Envoy Frix, representative of the Unified Alliance, broke the silence. "Captain Lyons," he hissed, his voice a thin whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. "Your species has repeatedly refused assistance, diplomacy, or compliance with Galactic Council protocols. Our suggestion, a diplomatic withdrawal." Captain Elias Lyons, standing alone and unarmed in the center of the room, chuckled. The sound was unsettling, a human laugh, something rarely heard by any member of the council. He clasped his hands behind his back, his stance relaxed yet steady. "Listen, you can call it what you want," Lyons said, his voice steady. "But where I'm from, when someone doesn't respect our borders, we don't talk. We don't call for help. We handle it. So I'll make this real simple. We're done negotiating. You think we're weak? Fine. I'll show you what weak really looks like." Before anyone could respond, Lyons turned on his heel and walked out of the council chamber, leaving a stunned silence behind him. The humans had refused any further communication with the council, and a simple message was transmitted back to their home systems: stand down or prepare for consequences. It was, of course, ignored. In the following weeks, the galaxy braced for what they assumed would be a small conflict, easily quashed by the combined forces of the most advanced empires in existence. After all, the humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and strategically vulnerable. But what began as a confident foray into human territory quickly turned into a nightmare. It started small. Dreek scout ships patrolling the outer rings of human territory disappeared. At first, the Dreek High Command dismissed it as minor sabotage, maybe an issue with communication relays. But then, the missing ships began piling up, and every attempt to retrieve or even locate them was met with failure. Then came the Zarthans' turn. Their fleets, infamous for their precision and technological prowess, were shocked to find their weapon systems malfunctioning, as though invisible hands were tampering with their core functions. Ships that tried to engage were suddenly swallowed by enormous EMP blasts, rendering even the most advanced Zarthan destroyers powerless. The Truic, usually dismissive of tactics and preferring brute strength, sent wave after wave of soldiers, confident that their numbers alone would overpower the human forces. But for every Truic platoon that landed, there seemed to be a human sniper, or worse, a human commando, lying in wait, emerging from the shadows like ghosts. The humans struck with an unpredictable mix of technology and pure audacity. They adapted their tactics faster than any AI could calculate, leaving the aliens scrambling, forever one step behind. Where the Zarthans used calculated formations, humans deployed guerrilla warfare and ambushes in places no one thought possible. When the Drex attempted to blockade the human systems, humans found weak points in their lines and struck with surgical precision, disabling command ships and supply lines. Commander Rockvac, a Truic veteran of 100 battles, paced furiously in his command tent, slamming his armored fist against a holographic map. "How are they doing this?" he growled, his voice reverberating. The Truic officers around him exchanged uneasy glances, unused to seeing their leader display anything other than confidence. They had marched into battle with the intent of crushing the humans swiftly, an invasion that should have taken a matter of weeks. "We have reports that they're exploiting psychological warfare, sir," a younger officer muttered, avoiding eye contact. They set traps. We find our men shaken. We don't know what they're seeing. Rockvac snarled. They're just humans. We have 3 times their fire. And yet they keep tearing through our lines. Explain that to me. Silence filled the room. No one could explain it. No one understood why the humans, seemingly on the brink of exhaustion, kept coming, each move more unpredictable and relentless than the last. What little data they had suggested that humans thrived under conditions that would break other species: limited resources, hostile terrain, a clear disadvantage in numbers and technology. None of it seemed to matter to them. The situation grew more desperate. The Galactic Council, watching from afar, scrambled to make sense of the reports pouring in. Human assault squads are adapting to our tactics faster than anticipated, a Xeran commander reported in frustration, his compound eyes flicking in agitation as he faced the council. Envoy Fricks, ever the pragmatist, rubbed his gelatinous head with a translucent appendage. Then adjust your tactics, the Zarthan nearly hissed in response. That's the problem. They don't fight like us. Their methods are unpredictable, erratic, and disturbingly effective. Our ice cannot predict their next moves. Envoy Fricks sighed, trying to make sense of the situation. The council members exchanged anxious glances. The plan had been simple: engage the humans, push them back, and re-establish boundaries. But the humans had ignored every diplomatic attempt, avoided every ambush, and now, inexplicably, were closing in on core territories. Meanwhile, across the human front lines, word spread like wildfire. It wasn't just a battle, it was a declaration. A reminder. Captain Lyon's words had taken on a life of their own, repeated in hushed whispers and over encrypted calls. Fine, I'll handle it. It had become more than a response. It was a mantra, a rallying cry for the humans. This wasn't just about holding ground. It was a matter of pride. And behind the scenes, strategists on Earth watched with quiet satisfaction, orchestrating countermeasures that left the alien forces in disarray. On the ground, every human soldier knew that there was no turning back. They fought like men possessed, their focus sharpened by the knowledge that the entire galaxy was watching. The Galactic Council scrambled to regain control, deploying more fleets and even calling for additional mercenaries, the kind of forces they had never relied upon before. But with every new fleet sent to the front lines, the reports only grew more disturbing. Humans weren't merely fighting, they were adapting in real time, shifting tactics as effortlessly as a breeze changes direction. Counselor Darrow, a seasoned strategist and high-ranking Drex official, sat with his face tense in the war room. The once mighty holographic map of human territories was now riddled with disturbing red indicators of lost battles. "We're dealing with a menace," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper, but still carrying the weight of his shock. "They aren't retreating, they're advancing." Across the table, Zarthan Admiral Glick's multifaceted eyes flickered in agitation. "Their strength is not in numbers, nor even in technology," he said. "Their strength is in unpredictability. It defies everything our models predict." The Drex officer cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, their ground forces show no signs of exhaustion. We've detected increased efficiency. They don't just shoot, they analyze, they change strategies mid-battle." He paused, unwilling to finish the thought. As if they're enjoying it," Glix finished, his voice dark with a growing realization. "Every species we fought has a limit, a threshold beyond which they falter. But with humans, there seems to be a different appetite. It's as though war itself is something they can manipulate to their advantage." Unbeknownst to the Council, humanity's response was running deeper than mere tactics. Earth's leaders had deployed some of the finest minds from military schools, experimental psychologists, and behavioral analysts, working together to devise not just plans, but ideas that could exploit the aliens' weaknesses in ways traditional battlefronts never could. Teams had even studied recordings of alien communications and psychology, noting patterns, habits, and instincts that could be used against them. The humans on the ground were carrying out a type of warfare the galaxy had never seen. It was psychological, relentless, and above all, unpredictable. Alien commanders found their supply lines severed in unexpected places. Ambushes were set up where none had ever anticipated a threat, and any attempt to retaliate was swiftly countered by a different strategy. The enemy's lines were being stretched, pulled into corners, and set into traps they hadn't seen coming. Out in the field, Captain Lyons led a small recon squad deep within Truic territory, moving silently under cover of night. They were a mere dozen, barely a fraction of the troop RC garrison stationed near B. Why? Captain Lyons knelt by the ledge, his helmet's visor casting a faint, digital glow as it displayed the map of the Truick encampment below. 12 soldiers crouched behind him, their armor matte black to blend into the surrounding darkness. The encampment wasn't massive by Truick standards, but it housed an artillery battery capable of obliterating an entire human settlement. They had to take it out, quietly and quickly. Lyons raised his hand, signaling his team to hold position. The camp's defenses were formidable, automated turrets scanning the perimeter, patrolling drones, and a dozen Truick warriors stationed strategically near key points. Truicks were massive, towering over most humans, their heavy armor making them walking tanks. Taking them head-on would be suicide. But Lyons didn't believe in fighting fair. "All right, listen up," he said over the squad's encrypted comms, his voice a low whisper. "We've got one shot at this. Thorn, Martinez, you're on drone disruption. Fry their sensors, make it look like a malfunction. Jamal, take point and mark the patrols. Rest of you, spread out and be ready to take down the sentries. We go loud only if I say, move." The team split up like shadows dissolving into the night. Within minutes, Martinez and Thorn had set up their portable disruptor. The patrol drones began to stutter mid-flight, their lights flickering as they veered off course. One crashed spectacularly into the side of a supply depot, drawing the attention of the guards. "Perfect," Lyons muttered. The distraction worked like a charm. As the Truick warriors moved to investigate, the rest of the squad slipped through the gaps in the perimeter. Jamal silently dispatched a sentry with a precise knife strike, catching the massive alien before it could raise the alarm. He signaled the all clear, and Lyons moved in with the rest of the team. Inside the camp, the humans worked methodically, planting charges on the artillery battery. Every move was calculated, every step deliberate. The Truick guards, distracted by the drone malfunction, were none the wiser. But just as the last charge was set, an alarm blared. "Contact!" Thorn's voice rang out over the comms. A Truick patrol had stumbled across their position. The camp erupted into chaos as the towering warriors roared, their guttural battle cries echoing through the night. "Plan B!" Lyons barked. The humans sprang into action, their rifles blazing as they engaged the Truick soldiers. The aliens were powerful, but the humans were faster, using cover and hit-and-run tactics to keep the enemy off balance. Lyons himself was a blur, his movements precise and deadly. He ducked under a Truick's massive swing, driving his combat knife into the alien's exposed joint before firing a burst from his sidearm into its chest. Another Truick charged him, but he rolled aside, tossing a grenade that exploded in a flash of light and sound, disorienting the attacker. "Charges set. We're good to go," Thorn called out. "Fall back," Lyons ordered. The squad retreated, moving with practiced efficiency as the Truick scrambled to regroup. As they reached the edge of the camp, Lyons turned and triggered the detonator. The explosion lit up the night, a massive fireball consuming the artillery battery and most of the camp with it. The shockwave knocked the remaining Truick off their feet, giving the humans the cover they needed to escape. Back at their rendezvous point, the squad regrouped, their faces streaked with sweat and grime but alight with triumph. "That's one less problem for HQ," Thorn said, grinning as he slapped Lyons on the shoulder. Lyons nodded, his expression grim. This was just a skirmish. The real fight's still ahead. The squad moved out, disappearing into the night as the fires of the Truick camp burned behind them. Across the galaxy, stories like this began to circulate. Human soldiers were becoming legends, their exploits whispered about in fear and awe. For every alien victory, there seemed to be 10 human triumphs, each more improbable than the last. The Galactic Council convened once again, their ranks visibly thinned. Delegates who had once spoken confidently of human defeat now sat in uneasy silence. Envoy Fricks addressed the assembly, his tone more subdued than before. "It is clear," he began, his gelatinous form rippling with stress, "that we have underestimated the humans. They are not simply resisting. They are outthinking us, outmaneuvering us, and turning our strengths into weaknesses." "What do you propose?" a Zarthan delegate asked, his voice tinged with desperation. Fricks hesitated before responding. "We may need to consider negotiation." The chamber erupted into chaos. To suggest negotiating with a species they had once deemed inferior was unthinkable. But as the arguments raged, one truth became undeniable. The humans were no longer just a problem. They were a force to be reckoned with, and some air on the human frontier. Captain Lyons and his squad prepared for their next mission, the words of their mantra echoing in their minds. "Fine, we'll handle it."